Hi, this is the video corresponding to the lesson 5. Okay, in this lesson we are going to study one food of the Mediterranean diet that is really the juice from olives that we can obtain by cold pressure and that show healthy property for us. This is the extra virgin olive oil. Okay, and now in this lesson we are going to analyze. We are going to study the olive tree and the olive. We are going to analyze the production method and the quality method that we must follow to produce or to obtain olive oil. And finally, we are going to analyze the benefits to the human health. The olive tree requires a specific climatic condition to grow. It's possible to find this specific climatic condition around the Mediterranean Sea. Usually the olive tree require one fall that a rainy fall, a cool winter, and a warm spring to produce the flower and to produce the fruit. This climatic condition, can be found in some area of China, California, the south of America, South Africa, and also in Australia and New Zealand. On the world, Spain is the country that with the highest production of olive oil. In this case is 46%, followed by Italy 15%, Greece 10%, and Syria 4%. The rest of the world is around this 6%. The olive tree that you can see, a typical olive tree that you can see at the top left, produces a fruit that is a drupe. A typical drupe contains acid, and around the seed, internal seed around the seed, contain the flesh and also a skin. The skin, the exocarp, the meat or flesh is the mesocarp, and the seed is the endocarp. The endocarp contains inside the seed. The flesh, the meat, contain about a half of the content water, oil between 18 to 25%, and other component about between 25 to 32%. As you can see, we need a cold winter, okay, on the olive tree. In April start appear the flower, but the green flower is usually in June, July appear the first flowers, and usually in September it's possible see the first small olive. This small olive require about 150 days to obtain the mature fruits that also contain that accumulate the oil. For example, in Spain, it's possible to get harvest before the olive tree, the olive, to produce olive to eat, table olive, and you must wait 150 days to obtain olive oil. The recipe to obtain extra virgin olive oil at home is very simple. You get olive, clean it, you can wash with water and dry. You can mill in a mixer, typical home mixer. You can wait 20 minutes, and you can obtain the olive by decantation. The solid component go to the bottom, and you obtain the olive oil. When you try to do that in the industry, it's a little bit different, but the process is really the same. It's different because it's not usually we can use the decantation process. We can use the other process that accelerate and increase the yield, like decantation, but also percolation and centrifugation are the method that we use instead decantation to obtain the extra virgin olive oil. And remember, it's the use of olive oil that we obtain after a cold pressure, without other process that modify the chemical nature of this olive oil use. During the production of olive oil for human consumption, we're going to obtain different kind of olive oil with different quality. And then we have different methods to analyze this quality. One of them is the acidity. So directly from olive, from after cold pressure, we can obtain extra virgin olive oil. The acidity for this olive oil must be lower than 0.8%. The acidity corresponds to the proportion of free fatty acid that we can find in the olive oil. Okay. Also, it's possible to obtain a second class in the virgin olive oil when the acidity is lower than 2%. During this process, also we obtain ordinary virgin olive oil and lampant virgin olive oil. In this case, the acidity is higher than 2%. And then for this reason, it's impossible to are not useful for human consumption. Another product that we obtain is the pomace olive oil. In this case, contain less than 1% of acidity, but for other reason, it's not possible for human consumption directly. In both cases, both these three kinds of oil can suffer a process of refination to obtain the refined olive oil and the olive oil pomace. So another parameter that we study is the K270. K270 is a parameter that we obtain after measure the absorbance in the spectrophotometer and this specific wavelength, in ultraviolet wavelength. So the K270 parameter indicates the presence of oxidized molecule in the olive oil. Usually this indicates that the olive oil is not so fresh, that probably comes from another season, or that the process to obtain olive oil is not so good, and then increase the concentration of oxidized molecule. Anyway, a high parameter, K270, indicates bad quality of the olive oil. And then these are the number, the maximum number for the different kind of olive oil. You can see how the lowest number corresponds to the extra virgin olive oil, and this is a method to detect a bad quality of extra virgin olive oil, or really that you are buying an olive oil that is not really very extra virgin olive oil. What are the components of extra virgin olive oil? The most important is the TAG. TAG are 3-glyceride or 3-acylglyceride. These molecules are composed by glycerol. This is a polyalcohol with 3 carbon that you can see here on the right, and also contain fatty acid. This fatty acid may be saturated fatty acid that you previously know, a second group monounsaturated fatty acid that is the most abundant in olive oil, and finally the polyunsaturated fatty acid that contain more than one double bond. This is a typical carbon chain of a monounsaturated fatty acid. You can see how it shows only one double bond, and this fatty acid can be bound to the glycerol producing by a process that is the esterification process. This esterification process is when the fatty acid is bound to glycerol. Glycerol contains 3 options, 3 targets for esterification. So this means that a 3-acylglycerol is a glycerol bound to 3 different fatty acids. And then the most important fatty acid that we can find in olive oil is the oleic acid. The oleic acid contains 18 carbon and 1 double bond. And depending on the variety of olive oil, we can find the concentration in between 55 to 87%. So the most important fatty acid in olive oil. Okay, olive oil contains more components. The most important is 3-acylglycerol, but also contain important in number, but also we have other compounds that are important for the property, the comfort to the olive oil. Okay, this composition, the composition of olive oil in terms of fatty acid is possible to find in other oil, vegetable oil. But the most interesting is the presence of this molecule, isoprenoid and phenol. Both of them usually can work like molecules that are active molecule and show a specific effect to improve the health. Isoprenoids, phenol, and also polyunsaturated fatty acid and monounsaturated fatty acid that are typical of triacylglycerol in olive oil. Okay, here I show you the structure of monounsaturated fatty acid. You can see in the case of a monounsaturated fatty acid contain one double bond, and then you can see at the right a typical structure of fatty acid. In the saturated fatty acid, you can see here there is no double bond, and then the molecule is sterile. But when you introduce a double bond, you modify the structure, and when you introduce more than one, you modify more the structure. So this means that the double bond modify the structure of the fatty acid and then can modify the property of the fatty acid. By example, this is the reason that the solid fat contain only saturated fatty acid. Solid fat because we can pack the different fatty acid one to other very well, but when you introduce this modification of the structure, it's impossible to obtain solid fat, and this is the reason that olive oil is liquid, and also the other oil that contain polyunsaturated fatty acid also are liquid. Function of the different monounsaturated fatty acid. Remember, olive oil is rich in monounsaturated fatty acid, mainly oleic acid. Okay, the first function is being part of triacylglycerol is to store energy. We accumulate energy as fat under our skin, in the belly, poo. The function is mainly energy, accumulate energy. Also, monounsaturated fatty acid can be present in phospholipids that are a structural component of membrane and also participate in the cell signaling. Okay. Another molecule containing monounsaturated fatty acid are the sphingolipid, another molecule that also is working in cell signaling. And complex lipid also contain fatty acid, the same, can work in signaling system, signaling process. And finally, in some cases, monounsaturated fatty acid can be present in waxes, and the function is protection. It's typical, by example, in apple. The skin of apple contains waxes that protect against water. In terms of health, monounsaturated fatty acid can block the abdominal obesity. That is very interesting because abdominal obesity is related with diabetes and metabolic syndrome. Also, the monounsaturated fatty acid can work in dyslipidemia and can block the production of the atherogenic plate. Also, monounsaturated fatty acid can work in, have been described that when you eat monounsaturated fatty acid, you decrease the hypertension, and also you can block also the diabetes production. Altogether, indicate that monounsaturated fatty acid can fight against the metabolic syndrome. The metabolic syndrome is a process in which you produce atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease, followed by obesity and diabetes.